Hi all, welcome to another Kingscrusher radio show. So this is Tuesday around 9 o'clock to 9:10 start time, and this week I thought we could look at the women's Grand Prix in Tehran. That had some very interesting games. Okay, so hi all there on YouTube as well. So let's see. The first game I'd like to have a look at is Konaru Humpy 2583 against Zhuwenjun. Actually, the pronunciation I'm not sure of. Let's see, has chessgames.com got some pronunciation? Yes. Player with black.
Zhuwenjun.
Okay, if you want to say that again.
Zhuwenjun.
Okay, that's how to pronounce the player with black. And the player with white is, I'd say Konaru Humpy, as if she's got a hump. That doesn't sound right, does it? I'm just reading it how I see it. Konaru Humpy. Okay, so let's have a look at this game. D4 from Konaru Humpy. Let's play with the black perspective. And let's see, what did Zhuwenjun play? Let's get that pronunciation again, just once more.
Zhuwenjun.
Okay, what did she play? Let's see. She played knight f6. I think the central idea of a lot of openings, hypermodern openings, is the e4 square actually. And if you look at the old classical, even when black occupies with a pawn on d5, e4 control is often featured in old classical lines. And I think let's make that a question when we look at these games tonight, with the black pieces in particular, how black tries to keep one of the goals of the opening is to keep an eye on this central square, if it's hypermodern or classical. So that's a goal of both. This is a very important aggressive central square. Out of the four squares, this one's really quite aggressive because it's nearest to the opponent's king and it's in the center. So as a sort of background fundamental, let's focus on that, as well as the details of the particular games. So here's c4, we see e6. So the idea of the pin, if the knight goes there, to put more pressure on e4. And we see this, so bishop b4. A very interesting approach here. Let's connect to live book here. Usually the main move is e3, Rubinstein, queen c2, second most popular, knight f3. Now f3 is actually the fourth most popular according to live book. So it's simply trying to get control of this square by force with f3 and e4. So it's a big question actually about e4 control in this classic Nimzo-Indian game. Does black really want to play d5 here? That's actually the main move, to try and stamp on e4 control. Another one is actually c5, that's second most popular, but black just castled. And in fact, it seems as though there's something interesting about this position, an almost transpositional property here after e4 is played. Because if you remember, in the French defense, in the advanced variation of the French defense, white is encouraged to set up a center because you're undermining it later. Now black plays d5 and does try and fight now white's occupation. And we have c takes, e5. And after knight fd7, this position starts to look a little bit like a French defense, because white now plays f4. And we have the French defense thematic move c5. It's not all about e4 now, it's about the dark square play and trying to blow up the center. So very interesting opening here. Is white's center precarious, the d4 control? It seems white will want to reinforce d4 now and plays knight f3. And here we have c takes d4. Knight takes d4 is played. And a very interesting move. Let's add a kibitzer now as well. Very interesting move. And it shows actually that white's opening might be slightly risky actually. Now I appreciate it. I've just started the stream. I'm hoping to get some feedback on stream or on Play Chess. Black to play. Very, very interesting move here. What would you play if I give you 20 seconds? Black to play. And it questions actually White's moves actually in this position. This move is very, very interesting. Quite tactically deep for an initial opening position, which you might think, is there much going on? Isn't Black going to just fight for d4 control with a move like knight c6? That would be a stereotypical move, knight c6, to try and fight for d4 control. It would be like, you know, French defense style. But there's actually something really incredibly interesting in this position. It's not knight c5. I'll give you 100 points if you can get it. And the continuation, if you get the continuation, you'll get a bonus of 500 points. Because, you know, it's so easy to say, oh, well, I know the right move. But do you know the continuation, the lead up? That's the all important thing, the idea behind the move. The idea behind the move is astronomical here. So 100 points for the first move. But if you see the whole concept, you know, 500 points. Alright, I'm going to show you the first move. Black. By the way, if you missed the start, I'll say the name again. Black is the player from China, Chinese women's champion 2010 and 2014, 25 years old. Her name is
Ji Wenjin.
Ji Wenjin. I'm not saying that right, am I?
Ji Wenjin.
It takes a lot of practice, this pronunciation business. So that's from Chess Games Com. Okay, I hope they don't mind. I think I did email them once, and they said as long as I mention Chess Games Com if I use any stuff from them. So that was Chess Games Com for the pronunciation, very useful. Okay, so Black plays knight takes e5. You might think, hold on a sec, what's going on here? Is it about this check? Yeah, it is. We see this check. And our first possibility here, although we're on the knight, this knight's pinned, right? So we've got some e4 control. So if g3, then there's queen e4 check, right? Because that knight's pinned. And then actually, we need to calculate though. Can we safely take this? Isn't it check? No, it's not check because the king's there. That's funny enough. That's not check. So no, queen takes h2. So this is just winning for Black. Now, that's not the end of the story. That's the start of the story. Magnificent story this is, because White seems to have a very resourceful move, which takes away Black's control of e4. White to play, and this has all been seen by Black, I presume. So White to play. What does White play here? You might think, well, this is responding to a check. What can you do here? What would be the best way to respond to this check? This is an incredible concept here that Black must have seen in playing this knight sack. So Andy Newman, you're nearly getting 500 points on YouTube stream. Well done. You saw part of the idea, but this is even the more beautiful part of it. That's why I say it's astronomical. What did you have to factor in that White could play here? Be resourceful with the opponent as well when you analyse. What can White resourcefully play here? Because, you know, when you play strong opponents, you're going to have to assume that they will play the most resourceful way, right? It's okay to, you know, crush the bunnies, just not really doing analysis one-sided. But as they get stronger, your opponents, you're going to have to factor in the most resourceful moves. Yeah? The most resourceful move here is king e2. Because now we haven't got queen e4, right? Because the knight takes. And here, Black resigned. That was a quick one, wasn't it? So who believes me that black resigned? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Sorry. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist that one. No. Black had this under control. She had this under control. She's 2558. Yeah, no. She saw this, I think. I mean, I guess. No, black's got to move. Black can still play this position. Yeah, black's play now. Okay, so the next quiz, yeah. But black's play here. This is why I said 500 points for the continuation. Black to play. No, black has a move here, or two. Actually. No, there's 3 moves apparently according to the engine, which are all pretty good for black. So it's far from lost. In fact, there's 3 moves which give black a great position here, increasing advantage actually. Now, the move played actually might not even be the strongest, incredibly. Alright, I'm going to show you the move played. Now, bishop g4, yeah, get yourself some points for that, because that's the top engine choice. Also, there's knight c6, apparently. But bishop c5, this asks some very bad questions off white. Because if the knight moves now, and this wasn't played, knight f3 wasn't played yet. If knight f3, then we can imagine queen f2 check is dangerous. Because then bishop f5 check, and it's a bit of a disaster, right? We don't want this position with white. This would be a small advantage to black. More than a small advantage to black, this sort of position. Yeah, that would be lost totally. Nope. We don't want to play knight f3. So white plays bishop e3, yeah, trying to support d4. But now we have bishop g4 check. And you might think, so what? Haven't we got knight f3 now? We're coming up to the punchline of the combination. The punchline of the joke. Black to play. Again, it's all technical stuff, this game, actually. Here. So that knight takes e5 was pretty nifty, if you think about it. Black to play here plays a move. What does black play? Okay, there's one guess or move here. And anyone on the stream? Anyone else? Have you got to the position yet? I hope you have. Alright, d4. Well done. d4. Because the bishop moved back in the game. Because if bishop takes, what we can do now is bishop takes f3 check, undermining d4, and then take here. That would be amazing, in amazing shape. So white played bishop g1. Now here it seems, you know, black is massively doing fantastically well. And can black play d takes? Well, bishop takes c5 would be a problem, so that's not the best idea. In fact, white would be doing fantastically well after that. So not d takes, but in fact bishop takes f3 check was played. King takes. And again, not wanting to play this because, again, bishop takes c5, right? Instead, black plays knight d7. Yeah, the king's been brought out here. So knight takes e5 is now on the cards. We have g3. This might be one of the best moves in the position, actually. If the knight moved here, then it's actually a mate in 6 with knight takes e5 check. King moves, queen takes e4. Yeah, it's going to be a mate. This position is horrible. That would be end of game. Mating. Yeah, no, that's to be avoided, yeah? So, okay, we have g3, the better move. Knight takes e5, check, and the king crawls back. But now another brilliant move this game's rather tactical, to say the least. Queen f6. It seems allowing the knight to go with tempo to e4, but what about this diagonal? White actually played knight a4, and again queen c6 check is of course a concern here. But if knight e4, queen c6 is the problem, because we've got f5 coming up, yeah? Okay, queen f6, really powerful move on this diagonal. We have knight a4, and still the check. It's really annoying. And now it walks into another check, discover check from the bishop. Knight takes c5, queen takes c5 check, but there's no escape for the king, so queen c6 check. At worst, black's got a perpetual check here. At worst now, surely minimal, because if the king tried to step out, well, actually, then this is no good. We can do all sorts of things. We can crawl like this and then play d2, etc. with a great position. Well, I think even taking the rook. Is that taking the rook possible? Nope. Bishop g2, that's something to be avoided. But anyway, king f2 was played. And black, again, can black take the rook? I would have thought so. I think we've just seen that the queen gets trapped, yeah? That's not a good idea. So black is not keen on that rook. So a strong move again in this position, black to play. So although material down, the king's been, the bishops are like, everything's huddled together here on the first rank. So we've got an aggressive knight and queen. Black, of course, also 4, 5, 6 is 2 pawns for the piece. But what move is really, really powerful here that black can play? This is a brilliancy. What does black play here? Would you dare play like this with black? So again, black to play. Piece down but for 2 pawns. The king doesn't look very happy. Any ideas? Black mobilizes more attacking pieces with rook ac8 because we've got this hook with rook c2 potentially coming up. And you might think, well, hang on, can we take this pawn? I wouldn't have thought so, because just something like this and we've got a nasty pin. So that pawn is providing rook c2 as a resource coming up. We have g4 being played. It's pretty desperate here. What else could white do? White's pretty helpless here. Okay, so in fact now black is able to do something that they weren't before and just reach a clearly winning position. So black to play now. This is just winning now very clearly, but there's also other winning moves. Yeah, you can either pursue the attack or you can just get the material. So actually I'm just going to say black's position is so crushing actually that queen e4 is really good technically with rook c2 check, but black decided to get some material back, which is winning as well, with queen takes h1, because this isn't working so well, because now rook c2 check. Pick up that bishop. Queen takes c2, and now queen takes g2 check, and black is the one material up now. Yeah, it's nearly +6 this position for black. We got 4, 5, 6. We're kind of 2 pawns up, but not only that, this pawn's got lust to expand here with rook c8 and knight d3. So that's the incoming threats, or rook d8 and rook d1. So white resigned here. If it's something like this, if white played on this, in fact, in this position, there's even knight d3, because if takes, then there's knight e1 check. Yeah. So white resigns here. It's quite a fantastic game, I thought, from black. Really an amazing game. So even though I was saying about e4 control, black gave up e4 in a sort of hyper-modern way to literally blow up the center after, in any case, with knight takes e5. What a shocking move. So I hope you enjoyed that game. I thought that was a pretty brilliant game. So this tournament, background about this tournament, which I haven't mentioned, has it actually finished? Yes. No. Hang on a sec. Yes. No, it has. It was this tournament was the FIDE Women's Grand Prix. It was February 11th to 24th, played in Tehran in Iran. And actually the winner of the tournament was, funny enough, the player with the black pieces. So if you weren't here to hear the name, that was the name. Okay, so let's have a look at another interesting game. I hope you found that game quite fun. I did. Now, yeah, some other interesting players in the tournament. There are some other interesting players in the tournament. And what game do I want to show you next? Yeah, I got an interesting game from Natalia Polgonia. I've mispronounced her name so many times.
Natalia Pogonina. Natalia Pogonina.
Okay, let's have a look at one of her games. So she was playing against, I'll load this up. This is an interesting game I played for earlier. I thought it was quite interesting. So her opponent is, oh, there's no pronunciation help. Oh dear. Nino Batsvishili, something like that. So let's see, d4. Now, I thought the theme of tonight, we're talking about e4 control and how to overprotect e4 with the black pieces in particular. So actually I am showing from the black perspective. Let's have a look at how the d4 opening systems seem to often revolve around e4. Now I mentioned briefly, if you've missed it, that of the 4 key central squares, if you're an attacking player with black, e4 is of greater importance in a way than the other 3. And with white, e5 is of greater importance. So a lot of systems do revolve around e4 control, whether hypermodern or classical. That e4 grip is something to bear in mind. So knight f6, looking to control e4. And now Natalia occupies d5, so getting this iron grip on e4. c4, we have e6. Knight c3, knight bd7. It looks pretty classical, right? C takes, e takes. We have bishop f4, c6. These systems are quite stable for the center. When you play things like King's Indian stuff or Greenfield stuff, you're risking quite a lot in the center, in the battle of the center. With these standard systems, more classically orientated, you can see the e4 grip is like a major highlight. We see queen c2, bishop e7, h3, and now instead of routinely castling, black gains some time, because if you castle here, do you know what the problem with castling here is? There's a subtle issue with castling. Does anyone guess what it is for 500 points? What's the slight downside of castling? So if I ask you downside of castling, It's like a fundamental question actually, because sometimes it's you're inhibiting a certain operation that you might want to have done if you castle here. What's the problem? Does anyone know? Something subtly an issue about casting. I mentioned this I think last week actually in one of the games with white. By the way, sorry, you should be on a new position. I don't know what's happened here. What's the position here? Have you all got the position with bishop f4? On my preview it's got an old position. I don't know why. Have you all got the position with bishop f4 and knight f3? A bit worried now. Is that correct? So none of you know the problem with casting, right? Oh no, one of you have mentioned it. Well done, Guillaume Polgum. If you castle right, the problem is you've stuck a rook on f8. Yeah, that's the problem. You've got a rook stuck on f8. You see, look here, you haven't got a rook stuck on f8, and you might think, well, is that at all significant? It is actually. If you want to do a knight maneuver without having to move the rook, you save an entire move. So knight f8 was played. Yeah, and now we get this knight g6 hitting the bishop. Bishop d3. White volunteers the double pawns. Knight takes, e takes. Now castling. But is it walking into an attack? White does play extremely aggressively here. With g4, mega aggressive stuff. Now there's an interesting response played here with the white king stuck in the center. Very interesting response, very energetic from Natalia. So black to play. What would you play here? Now the threat is well, there's all sorts of threats. White doesn't even have to play g5. I mean, white can just castle queenside potentially and other stuff. There is an energetic response to this move, which you probably won't guess, so I'm gonna have to just say. Knight e4. Yeah, knight e4, because if we get this bishop b4 check, this could be annoying, for example, in some lines. Yeah, it's a pawn sack. Knight takes, d takes, bishop takes e4. And now f5. Another kind of pawn sack, but the white king's in the center. So if white gets greedy here, white's going to get mashed up. For example, bishop takes. We can take here. And actually, even stronger than bishop b4 check is queen d5 in this position. It's nasty. It's just nasty. And we still got this in reserve, so you know white could get really smashed up like this. If not careful, right? So white goes bishop d3. Now we have the check. It's annoying. Stopping white castling queenside at the very least. And if knight d2, we've got the check in the centre, surely. Or we can take on d4. Both are pretty strong for black here. Because then f4's dropping. It's just terrible. So we have king f1. So the pawn sack is very interesting. Black now is a bit wary about queen b3 check to win this bishop. Sidesteps with the king to h8. So a good gambit as gambits go, this is looking like a pretty good gambit compensation. It's positionally based. White's got these double pawns. Black has got the bishop pair. Nice control on d5 potentially. Okay, so how does the game go? Rook g1, as though there's aggressive intent still against the black king. Bishop d6. White shields the f4 pawn. But now queen h4, yeah, the weakness of the last move. H4 wasn't good. Queen h4, how easy it is to protect here. Not very easy to protect h3 here. White tries g takes f5. If rook g3, this suffers from f takes, and if takes, check, and if here, check, and this is just horrible. This is just horrible for white, because this is dropping, etc. d4's weak. It's just horrible. Okay, so yeah, queen h4. White plays g takes f5. Now we see bishop takes e5, d takes, queen takes h3 check, and black's getting her pawns back. Rook g3, and look at white's structure. It's a bit of a rack. Check. So you can safely say the pawn sacks has worked out really well so far. We see rook ad8, encouraging more simplification. Bishop takes, rook takes, and if black can just double rooks down, then f4's a problem. Queen e4. We have queen f7, and actually black is threatening here rook takes f4, because if it takes, then there's rook d3 check, deflecting the queen. Yeah, because if king e4, there's rook d4. Just to show you that, say this. I think this is a safe token move. This is the threat here, rook d3 check. If here we got rook d4 check, and we're picking up the queen. Yeah. Okay, so white has to parry rook takes f4. White played actually an interesting response. Rook ag1. It turns out in this position, after rook ag1, that rook takes f4 might not be winning, amazingly, by the way. Well, it's to do with the doubled rooks here. If rook takes f4, queen takes, check, this position, if here takes, queen takes, that is winning for black. But hold on a sec. That was g6 was played. If here, we take the other rook. Rook takes g7, threatening mate. And actually it's just going to be a draw here. Yeah, believe it or not, apparently this is just equal. Because if something like this, well, we need this. This would be bad actually. This position here, it would be bad for black potentially. No, it's a draw though. It's like going to be a draw by perpetual. No, anyway, so entirely forgets about that threat for a moment. She just plays the more simple g6. She's got an advantage. Doesn't need to go tactics with these tactics. G6. So threatening rook takes f4 again without any rook g7 business. No, actually, we have the move b3. And in fact, maybe there was some concern about picking up two rooks for the queen, because rook takes f4 wasn't played. It is actually strong in this position apparently, to play it like this. This position here is actually quite good for black. That pawn I think is goner, and yeah, it's going to be difficult. But Natalie plays a different way. Still strong, still a very strong way of playing the position. Just c5. Go for this f4 different route. Threatening rook d4. We have queen c4. Black avoids the exchange of queens. rook c1, b6. So again, rook d4's on the cards here, hitting that f4. We have queen a6. Okay, so there's a back row issue here. We have queen d7 though, which not only parries the c8 issue, but now there's some infiltration points on d4 and d2. And white's next move is slightly awkward, rook c4. Can you see why this carries a slight weakness of the last move, rook c4? There's a slight weakness of the last move, pounced on here. Maybe white was in time trouble, it's approaching move 40. Black to play. What's the slight issue with rook c4? Black to play. More than a slight issue. 100 points if you get it. This will be the easiest 100 points I've given away. Yeah. Yeah, it blocks the diagonal. That's the clue. Do you see it now? What black's got? The last move has blocked the diagonal. Queen d3 in particular. Forget queen d2 because we can just move here, right? No, we got queen d3 checkmate. This is how the game ended, queen d3 checkmate. Anyway, so I think what we get from this game is if the opponent goes for your king too enthusiastically, with their king in the centre, you can sacrifice a pawn and hopefully get a sort of good gambit going. Yeah, it's a disaster with white, this game, isn't it? It looks like a disaster game for white to end like this. Horrible. Did anyone get anything from this game? I don't want to really replay it. Let's just think about it. I'll get you to try and visualize what happened in the game. White played aggressively. Black did some sort of pawn sack with the king still in the center and had a lot of pressure. Was able to get that material with interest. The f4 pawn was really weak. Black avoided the tactics, giving the two rooks for the queen. Instead, the d file and pressure generally just made white crack. Okay, so I thought an interesting game there. Well played, Natalia. Okay, let's see another interesting game. Okay, this on the theme of e4 control this week, with black playing with black openings with e4 control. A third one, yeah. If you're looking for defensive ideas against d4, this might be of interest. So I say the fundamental undertone of tonight, you know, about the center. This square, I'm arguing, is slightly more important when you're playing against d4 because it's an aggressive square of interest if you can overprotect it, or hypermodern pressure on it, or occupation. So e4, look out for e4 control. Now the players here, I need some help. I think. I hope there's pronunciation help on chessgames.com. Let's see. Yes, there is. Playing white is a 2-4-8-4.
Natalia Zhukova.
Natalia Zhukova.
Natalia Zhukova.
36-year-old from the Ukraine. GM as well as a WGM. She was European Women's Champion in 2000. And other stuff, of course. Okay, and playing black is
Nana Dzagnidze.
Nana Zagnidze.
Nana Dzagnidze.
Who's a 29-year-old player from Georgia. In 2008, Nana Zagnidze was awarded the men's grandmaster title. She is also a women's grandmaster. She was Georgian champion in 2003, 2004, 2008. Okay, so let's have a look now from black perspective with this e4 idea in mind. So before you go and learn tons of opening theory, if you want a system with black against d4, just remember about e4 control. The Nimzo engines are classic, but even the classical responses occupying center, often you want to get a lock on e4. Will we see that from this game? This lock on e4, d4. We see knight f6 controlling e4, yeah. c4. We see e6, as though the bishop's interested in pinning the knight. So we get more control on e4. But we go into queen's engine territory, knight f3. We see b6, yeah, black is again interested in controlling e4. Right? g3, bishop b7. Black is controlling e4. Bishop g2. Not all central squares are equal. That's my argument. Does anyone buy into this argument? I've never made this argument before, but I would say when you're playing against d4 with black, the e4 is more important than the others. Does anyone agree or disagree? Is e4 more important than the other three? That's my argument. It's controversial, is it or not? Would you say e4 is more important than the other three central squares? You can agree or disagree, I don't mind. I'm making the case with these examples. Not all central squares are equal, maybe. Anyway, we see bishop e7. Both sides castle. Knight c3, as though white is building up for e4, right? Black padlocks e4 here. Black padlocks e4 by playing knight e4, occupying literally e4. Yeah. Now white plays bishop d2 here. If white tries to play something like this, then we can again padlock e4 here. If knight takes, if b takes, then we've damaged white's pawn structure, and maybe even f5 is desirable, maybe. And if white plays queen takes c3 here, then we can padlock e4 with this, with d5 to follow. So we still get this lock on e4, right, in these variations. White plays bishop d2, and this is an interesting thing, that sometimes you do want to let go. Why you want to let go of literal occupation of the e4 square, as we've seen in our first example game, is the hypermodern principle that, okay, you can sometimes let the opponent control the center if you're going to undermine it later or try and blow it up. So here actually knight takes d2. It's important also sometimes to get the dark square bishop, and here black lets go of e4. Yes, is this against what I've said? d6, just letting go. It will be compromising black's position here to play f5 quite a lot, because then we've weakened the structure, we weakened e6. It's not all about e4 here now, because there's other things going on here. This position is just horrible. No, black knows the right time to let go of literal occupation. d6, and in fact white blunts the bishop, e5, and e4 is played. But it is a target. e4 is a target. Black can arrange now to undermine e4. We see bishop c8. So this undermining operation, it's a target. We can blow up the center after. Knight e1, f5. Yeah, we're challenging e4 already. Not only that, there's a possibility maybe of f4. That could be quite useful for an attack. So white plays e takes, bishop takes. We have knight d3, and black, with that beautiful bishop pair, well, beautiful in some positions, plays bishop g5 and drops the bishop here. Black's also potentially, because white's played d5, black's also got this c5 square to play with sometimes, we get a knight c5. That would be exerting pressure on the central squares. We have knight e4, and black prepares this maneuver with a5 first. So the knight wants to climb to c5. White plays f4. We have e takes f4, which you'd think might favour the bishop pair, as the position's being opened up. As a general rule, if you've got the bishop pair, you want the position to be kind of opened up. Now, the knights are threatening naughty things, though, in this position, like knight e6. So actually, black gives up the dark square bishop to stop that. And knight d7 now, with the idea of things like taking and then knight c5. Maybe. So we have knight c3, though. Knight c5 now. Very comfortable looking knight on c5. So yeah, black temporarily... Black at first was trying to control e4, then black gave up e4, then black undermined d4, and black's got a decent position now. So chess is really complicated, yeah. But black has a decent position, because you can argue this bishop's hemmed in by its own pawn structure. The knight is very happy there on c5. Any attempt to kick it away, we can always do a4 and stuff. The knight's very happy, and also there's things like yeah, the knight's happy. So we see rook a f1. Black doesn't want to create weaknesses here necessarily with a move like g6. Instead, there's a tempo gain on the queen. And now actually the knight does support bishop d3, that forcing move. And the bishop now drops back, protecting the f7 entry point. Knight b5. White is rerouting to try and get into that. Maybe these squares are of interest. Queen d7, we have knight d4. Bishop e4. I think white made a mistake here. This is a critical mistake. It seems easy when you're looking with an engine at these games. But it seems as though white should be okay just retreating the rook. But for some reason white is interested in winning the queen, but it's for two rooks. Yeah, queen takes. Two rooks is quite good sometimes. Knight e6, this is the point maybe that was made that isn't this dangerous as knight e6. Black plays bishop takes g2. And now here it seems white should play queen takes g2, and we would have an interesting position, because actually the queen is x-raying the rook, which means actually that knight takes, we've got d takes, which would stop rook takes, because then we've got queen takes, right? And if king takes, then we've got a draw, I think, by perpetual at least. Well, we're dragging the king out, and it's not so clear, this position. It's going to be a lot of perpetual checks, if not perpetual check. But anyway, white didn't do that. White played knight takes c7 here, and actually black in this position is doing more than okay after bishop h3. The king is kind of in a prison here. If a move like, well, let's see the game, g4, and actually there's a really interesting move in this position. Black played king g8, but there's actually an even more interesting move apparently in rook e4, just giving up this rook. This didn't happen in the game, but this position is horrible because we're winning that queen. And here, this is no good because knight e4. This position here, there's rook f4. We've got that kind of net around the king. With knight d2 to follow. Knight d2 here. There's queen h5 check, refuting. But g6 in this position stops the queen h5. So this was this would be like winning for black apparently. Very difficult to see in advance, this sort of stuff. But anyway, black played the more human way. Not rook e4, but king g8. Still 3 bits for the queen. Can't be too bad. 3 bits for the queen. Interesting imbalance. We have queen g3, h5. h3, bishop drops back there. Queen takes d6. Knight d7. White protects this pawn now. Queen g3. We have rook e8. There's coordination of the black pieces here though. g6. We have check. Knight e5. Nifty move. Knight e5. We have check. Rook h1. Ganging up on h3 now. Yeah, this is bad news it seems for white. A very strong move apparently is h4 check. Another strong move was played though, not as strong. Rook takes. That seems really good though. But h4 check. This is kind of very nice for black. Anyway, rook takes h3 check. Well, it transposes anyway, I suppose. h4 doesn't matter. The 3 pieces are working very well together. And we've got the pawn now supporting g3. d6, as though, is this pawn really dangerous? Check. Knight e6. Rook d3 getting behind that pawn. Rook d4. Black takes on b4. h3, this is a dangerous pass pawn. Check. h2. Yeah, the queen is not looking too healthy here. Played actually queen e8 check. If queen h4, then taking this, and that pawn's immune because we've got rook d2 check. It's pretty helpless now. We have check, knight f8, which is an accurate move, because if here, then check, and it's kind of perpetual check time. So this was a really good accurate move in this position to actually drop back the knight, because we've got this pawn here. It doesn't matter about sacking the rook. And here white resigned. Okay, so I thought that was an interesting game, at least from the perspective of e4 control. It's more complicated than just keeping a padlock. Sometimes you want to give it up to undermine later e4. So you know, it's a common theme I want to just try and mention this week, that playing against d4. So that was a Queen's Indian defense. I thought played amazingly well. So yeah, so that's 3 interesting games I thought to show you. There's another one I think let me just check. Did I have in mind? Well, not really. Oh yeah, I found it. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I found it. There's another game which is quite sharp. Actually, it's got nothing much to do with equal control. I thought it was just a sharp game. Let's have a quick look at this one. It's another one of this player called Nana. Let me just get the pronunciation.
Nana Dzagnidze.
So the Georgian player, 29 years old. She didn't win the tournament or anything. It's just some interesting games. She got 6.5 out of 11. The winner only got 7.5 out of 11. There was no like complete killer in it. It was all, you know, close on the scores in the end. So only half point separated the winner from the pack. But anyway, let's have a look at this game. I thought this was quite interesting. D4. We have knight f6. Oh, Valentina Gunina is the player with white. Gunina, who's a Grandmaster NWGM, 27-year-old Russian.
Valentina Gunina
Is playing white. Okay, so we have knight f6, we have c4, e6. Knight f3, another queen's engine, is it going to be? Actually, we go into d5, we go into a Rogozin defense. D takes c4, bishop b4. And black strikes at the center with c5. This is a really ultra sharp opening actually. C takes d4. Bishop takes c3. Check. Queen a5, which hits the bishop, and c3. White took. Queen takes c3 check. And you might wonder here, this is an interesting point to make here, about taking on c4. Now taking on c4 with check you might think is really tempting, yeah? But the main move is not to do that. The main move is actually to take here. There's like 137 games taking here, not taking on c4, which is only 4 games. And the reason is, there's something awkward about this position. Emphasized if you play g takes. Can you see what white does with a big advantage in this position? What does white do here? White's play this. I'm just ruling out why this taking with check isn't always a fantastic thing. White to play here. What's the problem with black's position? Can you see? White's play. Taking with check is not always the most fantastic thing to do. Yeah, rook c1. That'd be embarrassing. Yeah. No. So okay, black, from a theoretical point of view, plays what seems to be the more trodden move, the back move, g takes f6. Okay, allowing rook c1. Okay. You might think, okay, this position, h4, this is really crazy stuff, isn't it? What has black achieved? Well, white's forfeited casting rights. Is white really going to play a move like this soon? Yeah, that's right. That's how the rook's going to come in the game. So we've got a crazy game here. Bishop d7. We have rook h3. So actually it's not just b3, I mean there's d3 of interest because there's a target here, right? We have knight c6. Okay, knight c6. Now this is tricky. If we play a move like rook d3, then knight e5 walks straight into that. That's not clever. So we have knight b5 here being played, which looks very sensible for knight d6 check. Very, very sensible. And white technically is doing quite well here at the moment. Knight e5, we have this knight d6 check. King goes to e7. And white snaps off this pawn. Queen b6. I think white blundered here somewhat, a little bit. Not sure. Actually, it's not really. Actually, forget blunder. White's got a good position, but maybe the strongest might be rook b1. Instead, white played rook b3. Can you see what this allows? Unfortunate weakness of the last move. What does rook b3? What weakness of the last move does rook b3 have? Can you see, what does it block? What does black play here which pounces on rook b3? Weakness of the last move? Can you see what the weakness of the last move is with rook b3? it's not winning for black or anything. It just maybe getting closer to being equal. By the way, so black plays what here? Yeah, rook b3 has blocked the queen from a4. So bishop a4 pounces on that pin, but still it's a game. It's not over. Bishop takes. Okay, black doesn't want to lose the exchange, so moves the rook. Rook hc8. Knight d6 is a way of holding c4, but this way was chosen, knight a5, which is also a way of holding the c4 bishop. Bishop a4. We have check. Actually, I think this is pointed out as a key mistake, this check, funny enough. I think white needs to be concerned about this configuration, which is potentially dangerous, and this check, it seems, doesn't help things after king f8, because black is threatening things like rook c5 here, hitting like doubling, and then we factor in also bishop b5s. This is a precarious position tactically for white now. White plays f4 here. If I move like, you know, king here, then rook c5 is painful because we've got that horrible pin. Yeah, we've got this loose piece here, and if so, we have knight b3, then we can just win this piece. It's horrible. So anyway, white tries probably the best move now, f4. But black is in the driving seat now and uses this pin on the bishop to play knight d3, hitting the rook and forking. Black's really got into the driving seat now. Rook c3. This is an interesting response, because if knight takes f4, there's rook f3, and if knight h5, then there's g4. And actually, this is okay for white. It's complicated, but black plays knight c5 now, hitting the rook and the pawn. Better idea. Rook b4. Well, no, rook b2. So winning that center pawn. So black's in the driving seat. Bishop drops back. Bishop d3. We have check. f5. Rook c3, pinning again. Pinning is always nice. Knight drops back there. Can start torturing f4 soon. That would be a nice place to torture f4 without any g3. Knight c5. We have rook c8. Knight goes here, curiously. Going into this pin, rook b8. Yeah, there's pins all around the shop here in this game. Rook takes a7. We have now knight d5. Threatening knight takes f4 check, winning the bishop. g3. Now another pin this way. So we've got this one now as well as this one. And given the paralysis, your knight e7 to c6 will win material soon. That sort of thing. Rook, king d2, knight e7, threatening knight c6 or knight c8 to win material now. g4, a bit desperate. It opens up that to try and protect the knight, but f5. Now here, if the bishop dropped back over here, then bishop c6, it doesn't help black. Yeah, this is awkward position. It's lost. And after knight c6, yeah, white's just got so many pins going on. This is a pin disaster from white, actually. So white resigns here. White's losing material. Yeah, so it's a game I thought was quite interesting. and that sort of razor sharp opening. Yep. We're heading into the FIDE, the Women's World Championship. I think starts soon, like tomorrow. Which World Championship match? I saw on Reddit. Let me just check on Reddit. It's been mentioned. So it starts March 1st and goes up to 18th. So it started today. So Maria Mischuk against who Yifan who. So that'll be interesting as well. Maybe we can look at some games from the Women's World Championship next week. Okay, so there's 4 interesting games. Anyway, I thought they had some interest points. Now, what do we take from this game? I know it was like chaos. I'm not sure what to take from the last game. It was just an interesting one I played through, so I thought I'd show you it. Okay, so I hope you got something from this, and any comments or questions on YouTube. So see you next week. We might have some interesting World Championship games from the FIDE Women's World Championship match. Okay, thanks very much. And remember to like the video if you liked any bits of the video or liked like this. So likes are always appreciated. And yeah, have a good week. Thanks very much.